Hi, this is the cover art. I am Sana, and today we are looking into terrible slash interesting slash learning opportunity Instagram poetry. I found the perfect account for this. Poets is the name of the account. We have 5 of some of the first poems that are on the page. We're going to go through them one by one, look into the strengths, the weaknesses, and I'll give a little bit of my personal insight about what could be done to make them better. Part of me is glad that social media is supporting a resurgence of poetry, but part of me is sad that it's often taking the shape of 5 single word lines and a skinny white woman on the visual side of things. And what I'm hoping is that by listening to the conversation that these pieces elicit, that your writing process and take on things will become more interesting and original. Beautiful. So the first poem is by a poet called Vikhshaka. Here's how it goes. Life is more than those broken dreams. Maybe you would fly higher with the damaged wings. So this is the beginning of a certain trend that I witnessed going through these pieces, which is kind of deeply straightforward, inspirational word use and play here. It features butterflies, which is a must-have. It features a skinny woman, and on this one there's also a messy bun on top and flowers. So it really, visually, it hits completely out of the ballpark. But then the issues with this piece as I see it is that firstly it makes relatively little sense. So we go with life is more than those broken dreams. Makes sense. There's more to life than the stuff that we don't get, like the stuff that we do get but we didn't really want, for example. And then we go to maybe you would fly higher with the damaged wings. And as people in the comment section are pointing out, getting somewhere with broken wings is difficult, especially getting higher with the broken wings. Maybe this poem features an escalator or a plane or a drone, perhaps, but it's not mentioned here, so we're just assuming that the reader is expected to be gullible enough to just kind of take in the inspiration, take in the kind of acceptance of broken dreams and go from there. But firstly, we have some nonsense here. And you know, it is definitely possible, and it would even be cool and original if there actually was some sort of a drone at the back of the mind of the person writing it, or if there was some sort of like a twist of physics that would allow us to understand why getting higher with those fucked up wings would be possible. But we don't have that here. So what we're getting from this poem is that we're just kind of offered nonsense as inspo content. Then that's the way that we're going to take this. And even the first line, life is more than those broken dreams, we don't really have a stake in the piece if we don't really get an understanding of what the broken dreams are, or how should we understand the conversation taking place between the writer and the you in the poem. So we don't really have a stake in there, which really leaves us kind of caring relatively little about the situation. Of course, all of us can kind of go into it with our own preconceived notions and our own broken dreams and kind of like run with that and feel deeply touched. But if you've read more than 10 poems, then this stuff starts getting old. So my recommendations: give us some more information or imagery that would make us care about what's going on with the I and the you in the poem. Give context for why broken wings would make it possible for us to go higher, and perhaps give us more about what those broken dreams are. So I guess I'm just inviting expansion and also inviting abstaining from using skinny girls with buns as the visual. So thank you, Vikhshaka. Good luck writing to you, and let's go to the next one. So this one is by an author with the Instagram handle Sanella Wright, and here's how it goes. This heart of mine feels like a ghost town. Perhaps it's just me, but whenever I see a line break, I hear a break. I hear a pause in the reading of it, which means that poems where we have a line break after each word or every two words is just going really slowly and we're not really getting into an interesting rhythm with the piece. So that's the first issue that I have with this poem here. I think the idea of a heart feeling like a ghost town is interesting, and I would again love to see some expansion on that. You know, there's so many interesting little takes that you could put in there when it comes to ghost towns. Is there perhaps an old dusty tavern that's just empty and perhaps there's a half-finished beer on the counter when someone wanders in there? Are there bloodstains on the floor of that tavern? Is there an abandoned church there perhaps where kind of a filled up bath of holy water still remains? You know, there's just like a lot that you could play with here, and the author has decided to not do that. Together with the previous piece, what I'm kind of thinking is that this Instagram poetry seems like it's made for people who can't really read more than a few lines, more than a few words. Kind of economy of language here, which, you know, can be a good thing. Here, if we want to be economical with words, whilst still having a piece full of emotion and intensity, there's a lot of filler words here that we would actually be able to remove and edit out. So for example, we start with a filler word. This is not really necessary here. Of mine, we kind of get an old-timey feel with this phrase there, but that's also not really necessary. Feels like, also not really necessary, because you can just say my heart's a ghost town, you know, and it contains the same exact idea, but you then perhaps have space to add some more color, some more curiosity, and some more freshness to this idea. Visually, we have a young-looking white woman with a bare back, looking all skinny and sexy, and holding an anatomically correct heart in her palm. It could actually also be, it doesn't necessarily have to be a woman. It could also be a person from a different gender. But yes, recommendations would be see what can be edited out if you want to keep this economy of word. Expand on the visual or the metaphor here. What does it mean for the heart to feel like a ghost town, and what does it mean for the relationships, you know? I guess it's kind of good that I'm getting a lot of questions here, but it just seems like the artist didn't really kind of take the time or the energy to really take this poem somewhere, which they could. So let's go to the next one. All right, so this is by Meraki, and it goes like this. The most sorrowful endings are the almost ones. You can only imagine what it could have been. This piece is utilizing everyday language to drive home a relatively simple point. I don't even know if I would call it poetry. Perhaps it's more motivational quotation porn, but let's treat it as such, since it is on the poet's Instagram account. What I like about this poem, the almost in the quotation marks, it gives some sort of a twist to the idea here. We have a kind of a lightness and a depth to it simultaneously, thanks to usage of the word sorrowful and again the almost thing. It seems like they're not trying too hard with this poem. However, I am curious about what makes this expression of emotion special or different from the other ones. Is there a way to phrase or describe this experience that would set it apart from thousands of other poems such as this one? The phrases are tired, you know? You can only imagine what it could have been. Say it differently, say it freshly. Maybe there's a different, new way of containing that feeling, that sense of looking back and wondering, you know, if I changed this decision here, perhaps I would have gotten to a completely different outcome. Yeah, I would just invite some playfulness and creativity into this piece, and we would have a much more awesome poem in our hands. Since I mentioned that the almost in the quotation marks, I'm kind of left wondering if that usage of the quotation marks could be repeated in another line, perhaps at the end there. I definitely have experiences in my life where I am reaching something almost, or being a millimeter away from a desired result, and I would just like to see what experience is being described here. The main hint that we have is that on the visual we have two hands touching, line drawing, so I don't necessarily want to say that these arms are white, but they're a white color on the drawing here. We don't see any wrinkles, so they look like young hands, young white hands. So perhaps a more creative approach could be valuable there as well. All right, let's go to the next one. Okay, so this is by Michael Thomas Mandley. It goes like this. When you're tired from walking, do not forget you made it all this way barefoot. Revolution requires a certain amount of calluses. Lovely. We have several strong images in this poem. Walking, deeply visceral. Walking barefoot, even more visceral. Revolution, a very kind of intense, all-encompassing phrase or term. And then the calluses, which everyone is more or less intimately familiar with. So this poem, it gives us an image, it gives us a feeling, it gives us sensations. In that, it succeeds deeply. I think writing from a didactic voice is kind of simple, especially in a space like Instagram, where it seems like people are seeking to be touched very, very directly, and that directness is kind of a gateway to fame or infamy, perhaps. But in his next poems, I would love to see what he can do without addressing the reader directly. Even an I could be very powerful here, since it contains certain vulnerability. Imagine, when I'm tired from walking, I try not to forget I made it all this way barefoot. Revolution requires a certain amount of calluses. The author is telling us that they have experienced pain and become deeply exhausted by the hassle of life. Third person could also work, but this addressing me as the reader directly just has a smell of cliche over it, especially since the idea is very simple. You know, keep going. You're gonna be there soon. Don't give up, which is something that we run into constantly online. An interesting part here is the term revolution, which for my socialist self has a very political connotation, and we don't really get a political sense from this poem. So I'm confused by that term. It makes me think that he perhaps is just kind of co-opting language for the simple individualistic idea here. Maybe there's a more context, more political space that could be brought into this poem to make the revolution not stand out so much. So that's one option for edits. Another option for edits, besides changing the position of the speaker, who it's addressed toward, is giving us a bigger sense of where we are at this present moment. You made it all this way. Where? You know, where could the you in this poem be already? What are they walking towards? I guess this is already the fourth poem where I'm just so wanting some more space and some more content, more context, more color, more shape. These brief pieces are easy to get to, but in the end, since they're not executed so well, they don't really reach me. Plus, since I already mentioned that this, you know, keep going, you got it, don't stop now idea is so overdone in all kinds of artistic works, it needs extra freshness, some sort of a secret sauce in order for it not to get tiring. And that's where the colors, the shapes, the secret sauce comes in. It's so easy for us to utilize tired cliches, and it takes courage to avoid them, and it even takes courage to notice when you've out of comfort assumed it and edited it. So dear Michael Thomas Mandley, I invite you to be more fresh and courageous with your work. All right, and now the last one of this account. So this one is by Melissa Anderson. Again, a short one. I was quiet, yes, but I heard all you never said. Your silence read. All right, so let's start with the stuff that's beautiful here. So firstly, there's an interesting usage of italics at the end of the first line there, which makes us pronounce it, read it with a slightly different intonation. So I like that. Then we have an interesting little inside rhyme here. All you never said, your silence read. It gives us a sense of rhythm, and that's awesome. And then in the end there, your silence read contains two potential different meanings. Firstly, your silence read, meaning your silence reeked of what you wanted or didn't want. Your silence spoke for itself. Or your silence read, as in your silence got read. I read it, I saw it for what it was, and I saw through you. So nice little original twist there. It's, again, I have questions popping in my head. For example, I was quiet. So the speaker was quiet, and the partner was quiet as well. What differentiates their silence? I think that's an interesting thing that could be explored here so beautifully, but never is. I heard all you never said. There we have a tired idea and a tired phrase used there. It has 25,000 likes, so it's clear that it speaks to people, but there is a more interesting, tantalizing way of putting it, you know? I heard every second of your silences. My eardrums burst because of the explosive loudness of your quiet. Dear Melissa, don't use these, but there are options for you here. And I guess it's also just a personal thing in this poem that I am getting a feeling of a very passive, withheld, and dishonest speaker. It seems like they're addressing something in this poem that they never addressed in real life, because there's no trace of that conversation ever taking place, which feels like a loss to me. Yeah, lonely girl of phenomenology, right? Let's see. So for this piece, I would be curious to hear a slightly more context about what differentiates their silences from each other. Could the other person also be feeling a similar way about the speaker's silence? A rephrasing of all you never said. The thing that it actually made pop into my head when I was reading is tattoo all the things you said. That's the kind of all the things you said, all the things you said in my head. That's what it made me pop up in my head. And keeping of your silence read, since that was a nice multi-layered line right there. So that was me giving feedback and speaking about 5 Instagram poems. I personally had a really nice time. Thank you so much for watching this. If this is something that you like, then let me know. If this is something that you would like to get done to your poetry, then feel free to DM it to me through a channel that I will provide on the screen. I appreciate you being here and listening to me. I hope you have a good day. I am hoping to be back with another video ASAP, and greetings from the countryside. Have a good day. Bye!